Hello, everybody, and welcome to Flow Getter. I'm Lisa, and this is Erica. Hey, Erica.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi.
And today we're going to talk about emotions. Okay, that's a big topic. I'm sure we're going to narrow it down, but just top level, I'm going to throw out a few things, and then Erica, you're going to grab one and run with it. And I have lots of thoughts too. So it's going to be a nice, juicy episode today. Emotions, energy in motion. How does emotion fit into law of attraction? How does emotion fit into being a human? How does it fit into body health? How does it fit into enlightenment? There are so many places we can go with this. And often some advice, say in the law of attraction area, can conflict with the healing area, which can conflict, so there's a lot of you're supposed to think this about emotions and this about that. And so I kind of want to know where you land on all of those topics, Miss Tafoya. So what do you think?
How
You
much
love
time do we
emotions.
have?
We have hours. You've always historically been someone who you always say, I love the topic of feelings and emotions. So what is that? Let's start there. What does that mean to you? Why do you love it?
Thank you. I love this topic. Okay, and here's why. The first, 35 years of my life, I did everything I could to avoid feelings and emotions.
Yay!
Feelings, gross. Ew.
Yeah,
So yeah, and it's only recently, okay, in the last 10 years, I became more and more fascinated and didn't really know why, but I just knew that there was something really big around this topic, and I now am I've now landed so far uh, in a place where I believe that feelings and emotions are sort of the fundamental. It's what is uniquely human. It's what makes us
mm,
human compared to when you kind of think, okay, otherworldly and uh, what else is out there. I think that it's the feeling and emotional body that that allows us. It's a tool. I really think that they're a tool. And I'll
okay.
explain that.
Yes.
But and they're evolving, just like everything else evolves. So
Yeah.
do feelings and emotions.
And you
And
said the emotional body, so also touch on that.
what I mean is kind of it's like the physical body. There's the mental body. There's there are all different kinds of ways we can look at
Spiritual body, yeah,
spiritual body.
etheric
Thank you.
body. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. There's
You,
layers of density in energy,
yes.
right? So that counts kind of as okay, that one's this one,
Thank you.
etc. Okay.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. So yes, emotional body. So I don't even know where to start. Okay. So basically, let me start by, or let me kind of go into what I mean by emotions and feelings are kind of, if you look at them as a tool, they're there for us to use. And the more experience we have, feeling the variety of what's out there in terms of feelings and emotions, there's a whole spectrum, and your, one person's sadness is not this next person's sadness, which is not the next person's sadness. It's all very unique to who we are in here,
Right.
because we're all
Okay.
different. We all carry a different kind of energy. And so uh I believe we're here to use emotions and feelings in order to grow and evolve. I think that's their
Okay, so that's the
purpose.
tool
Mm-hmm.
to do, like the tool is for growth. Because I would say, what's the tool for?
Yes.
Growth and evolution, to the soul, the spirit, the personality, all of those,
Yes.
all of the above. Okay.
All of the above. Yeah,
All of the
exactly.
above.
All
Okay.
of the above.
Excellent.
And and the reason this is important is because when we try to run from our feelings and emotions, we're not doing ourselves any favor. We are here to
Although emotions are grody, okay? I'm gonna drink
let's
my
just be real.
smoothie. We're gonna have a moment. It's like emotions are so gross. God.
They
Oh my God.
are. Oh my God. And it's interesting because if you think about any experience you've ever had where you've gone from, one point and you've done a decent amount of growth, it's all because you experienced these heavy, deeper emotions. You went to a place that felt totally different from your norm for a bit, and then you popped out and you came out brand new again.
Yeah.
That's what they're for. They're here to guide us. We use them to point us in the right direction. And so here's the thing. We've talked about peace and calm and sort of that being kind of our natural state of being.
Yeah.
Which those are really nice feelings that don't feel, those are feelings when I think of peace and calm, I think of alignment. I feel like I'm in alignment with, my inner being, the universe, source, whatever. When I think of branching out into different feelings and emotions, that kind of the further out you go, the maybe more uncomfortable or different things feel.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just extreme. Yeah. And it's not just the negatives. It can be like, extreme excitement that can feel right. Or extreme joy can feel kind of far away from the calm and peaceful state. And so, and then of course, on the other side of it is the, whatever, all the super fun ones. Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
Those are the gross ones. Okay. So, okay. So you're saying that like there's this natural sort of oneness state, and that emotions typically in that peace and calm and oneness feeling. And then there's like the spectrum that kind of goes out from that.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, continue.
You're in the natural, peaceful, calm state, and then you have an experience that pushes you into a different emotion that could feel uncomfortable or just different enough or contrasty, whatever it is. And then you know what that feels like. And then you go back to your calm state once you've kind of grown and become more aware. And it's almost like you use these things to get to the place you want to go. And when you're really conscious, I think sometimes we can get stuck in an emotion. And
you're reading my mind. Keep going.
Yes. And that's where, when we don't understand that emotions are the tool, when you don't know that, then you just it's like you adopt this emotion as if it's you, and if it's there to just sit there and but it's not. It's to be used as the tool. You use it, you go into that deep, painful, whatever place if you need to, and you become enlightened. You see things differently. You cry it out, feel all there is to feel in that state, knowing that it's just there for you to use momentarily. And then you can let it go.
Huge. Okay. I have to pause here for this very reason. There's a lot of school of thought, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to it or anything, because we'll figure out how they fit together, because you're the emotion genius, is you're traumatized or something happens, you get to this emotion and then you're stuck. It's stuck inside of you. And what I'm hearing is that one way to move that energy through you so that you can go return to the state of peace and oneness is that you go, okay, I'm not stuck here. I haven't seen this as this tool yet. And then your advice is, your advice is to feel it, lean in, right?
Yes,
lean into the emotion.
Yes.
Now, when people have depression, fear, rage, I kind of get, because you can go to one of those shoot it, break it rooms. Rage is kind of fun. I used to box. Like, I get how anger, you can kind of like steep in it a little bit, and you just don't take it out on other people, but it's not good for you. But I get how you can kind of go deeper into it, because it's not fun, but it's and sadness. Okay, watch a lot of Marley and Me, sad movie. Okay, like I kind of get those two. There's stuff that's even scarier and deeper, and people already are very afraid of being in those spaces. So, I don't depress easily. I mean, I've been depressed, certainly, but there are people that they're more prone to the depression, or those. So I would say, like, it makes sense to me on that middle part of the scale where you got to lean in a little more and, like, okay, cry it out, rage, beat up your pillows, vent, all that stuff. But as we get deeper in hopelessness, despair, depression, total powerlessness, that's where I'm like, I'm curious what you think in there, because I wouldn't say lean into powerlessness or depression, because you don't want anyone to become suicidal because we want them to be here. So what do we do on that end of the spectrum? Or are we just not qualified to even talk about that?
No, I think it's a great discussion. I love it. It's an awesome question. So my thoughts, there are a lot of reasons why people go to those really dark, deep places. And what I've noticed is there could be drugs involved. There could be an experience that happened, a traumatizing experience that happened that maybe is more fresh or recent. There could be a chemical imbalance. There could be, and I'm not really qualified to talk about the science behind this stuff because I have no idea. That said, I also believe that, again, everything is possible. So even I would say, number one, maybe get to the why. Maybe start there. Because I do feel like certain things like chemicals, I mean, let's just go there, like drugs or food, sugar, like we've talked about, right? There's certain things.
Even environmental toxins.
Exactly. There's certain things in the physical world that you can get rid of, that you can step away from. And I know it's easier said than done. I know that addiction, I mean, I've not struggled with addiction, so I can't really speak knowledgeably about it, but I do know that there are solutions to it. So I think if you're in a deep state, like in a survival mode kind of state, okay, step one is to do what you can to get through the minute, the hour. Okay. But then find the help. Seriously, find the help. Just go if it's a recovery clinic. Just go do that. Okay. Then get yourself to a point where you're no longer in survival mode. Because I love that you brought up sort of the spectrum of emotions, because I think that the deep depression and sadness, what feels better than that is the rage and the anger, kind of like what Abraham, that whole what is it?
Get yourself to revenge, because that's way better.
Right. Revenge. Totally. Revenge, anger. Yeah.
Just
that's way better.
Do the revenge, but you can feel
Don't act on it.
Feel vengeance. Don't act on vengeance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly. And I have an example of that. But exactly. So so really get yourself to a point where you can have an emotion that feels better than that deep struggle. And it's still, and it probably still will be a not awesome feeling, but it's better than that. Once you get to that better feeling, then you can start to work with stuff. Then, okay, that's where you kind of start to use, spend a minute watching a hilarious commercial. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of things. But find strategies.
But also, I think, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was saying victimhood, because a lot of times people are victimized and then they have feelings about that experience. And I think what I've heard from listening to various, I've not worked with people like this, but listening to, let's say, Abraham Hicks, where people have been severely victimized, some people, when they're ready to move out of it, they can let go of the story, but it's very difficult because we're very conditioned. So I'd say that if a person found themselves in a victimized mental and emotional state, you're going to have a harder time freeing yourself. And stepping out of victimhood doesn't mean condoning what happened.
Exactly.
Right? To you. Something did happen to you. That is unequivocal. So I think for our audience, I'm assuming that people are kind of into this, wanting to step into their power. And hello, everyone who is doing that. Yes. So I don't want to spend too much time there, but I did want to touch on it because I know that, there's people that suffer with that, and it's get help and join us when you're feeling like talking more middle spectrum with us. And then, that there's the extreme bliss, and that's, a whole other thing. But okay, so back to you on all this stuff. And then also let's talk about trapped emotion, trapped in the body, and how you think that works, like as a tool.
Yes.
Or let's go back to this. How does it work for a tool for growth? Like when you've had dark night of the soul, what have you learned about an emotion that makes you grow? Do you have an example of growth or something that you want to talk to? Okay.
I do. And I want to address what you said about victimhood, because I think that's so important. First of all, watch our podcast on the law of attraction, because that'll because this idea, it really does address, it's easy to get stuck in victimhood when you have a certain kind of belief. If I think you and I talk about, there's a fundamental kind of set of beliefs that you and I have that allow us not to really ever go there. That said, when we're talking about that middle spectrum, and to answer your question, when you understand how things work, how you manifest, how you create, how the emotions create your reality, when you understand that, then you can use the victimhood and the anger and the blame as tools to just get it out. Just get it out. And it's really, and that's important to remember, because I recently, and to answer your question, two things. So my mom passed away a long time ago. Some of you may know, some of you may not. But anyway, and it was sudden, and I was 16, and
we have a whole podcast on that.
We do have a whole podcast on that. Dead people.
Go check
awesome.
It out. Dead people. Yes.
And so I was 16, and because it was sudden, I spent the next 20 years with sadness, just trapped, like you're saying. It was just sadness. I walked around with it for 2 decades. And I remember someone told me to do this pain exercise where basically, because I hadn't ever really processed those deep feeling emotions, it was just trauma. They were stuck. They just were. And so, and they were affecting everything, all parts of my life, relationships. I wasn't the healthiest person. They're just all sorts of stuff. So I spent a weekend, and actually it started with a weekend, but I think as I look back, it was probably months where I kind of revisited until it really was just all kind of cleaned out. What I did was, I remember the weekend that I decided to just shut the phone off, shut every, just kind of be by myself. I replayed that whole story. I went through as much detail as I could remember over and over. And I cried like nonstop for that whole weekend. And I remember it rained the whole time. It was just like the entire time it rained. And now, my beliefs are, rain
perfect
for me,
weather for that.
It was. Rain for me is the same as crying, which is a cleansing. It's just a symbol of cleansing. And so, and rebirth. And boy, did that just opened me up. What I was doing was just getting as much of that emotion that was stuck out. And I was just feeling all of it and releasing all of it. And it was all just coming out. And over time, as I was allowing myself more and more freedom to just feel, because I hadn't done that. I had just cut everything out. I didn't cry easily. Anytime, in those 20 years, anytime anything would get too emotional, I would just shut down. I'd run. Eyes get huge. Run, emotion. Run. Now I'm on the other side of that, or my belief is totally opposite, where it's like, if you have a feeling, you feel it, you just go there, and you don't have to do it in public, but just, or you can if you want, who cares, but just do it. The point is to just get it out. So that second thing is, it's funny because a lot of times you hear, if you're feeling like we're not supposed to express anger, we're not supposed to express, these rage, or, we're supposed to just, we're feeling this way. That's not a good emotion. Well, they're there for us to use. They exist. And so what I realized, this has happened twice now in a couple of relationships recently, where I felt angry, and what I realized, and for a while I was holding off on fully expressing that. And what I realized is, because I know how things work in terms of emotions and how that creates our reality, I was like, screw this. I just went down the road. I was, F-bombing these people, and I was like blaming. I was just on full victim mode, but not for long. I did it just enough to just get it out. It was just like, it's like taking a good dump, I mean, it's pretty much what it is. It's just like, it's pretty much what it is. It's like, if you hold that in, it's going to make you sick.
It's a toxic, bad, and doesn't it feel great?
It feels amazing.
Post dump is light and free. Yeah,
absolutely. You got to get it out. It's so bad for you to hold it in. So that's what I did. And I mean, I literally spent maybe like 10 minutes cursing these people's names up and down. And it felt amazing, because I knew, as I was doing it, I knew that I didn't mean it. I just needed to get that. I needed to experience the emotion.
Well, and you bring up so many good points. The spiritual people aren't supposed to go, you're not supposed to go there. But you did like a targeted session of, I'm just going to blame. I'm just going to be angry. I'm just going to victim out. And you're just going to fully go there. You also brought up, there's expressing a feeling and there's feeling a feeling. I learned body work and all kinds of breath work and stuff back when I was 26 years old, so a long time ago. And they always said the feeling is the healing. And to really feel the sensations, fury, one of my favorite emotions, super tied to victimhood. It's so awesome. Or you're victim to yourself. I mean, it's perfect. You're like on fire. And you're just like, I could take down a city with my rage. It's good that I'm not a giant lizard, because I would stomp all over a city. And then there's expressing the emotion. So during this process, were you were feeling it physically and emotionally, embodiment, but then it sounds like you were also expressing, which is the magic thing, right? Because you weren't just like, you were like, mother friggin' frog, right?
Totally.
Okay, tell me more.
I love that. Yeah, you're totally right. It's not enough to just feel it, because you're still stuffing it. It's like joy. Are you going to hold in laughter? You go to a comedy club and you're going there to feel joy and laugh. Are you going to stuff the laughter? No, you're going to express
it's so funny. Yeah, it's like holding a fart. How well is that going to work?
Yeah, how good are you going to feel if you do that? Totally.
So much tension. So then, okay, so then, all right, so then you're taking the time at the right time, the appropriate moment for you to go there. Did you use journaling? Was it just you were just ready? Did you use a movie to kick it off? Like, I'm going to watch some dog die in some movie and that'll help. Or was it just, how did you know? Okay. Because I remember we had just started working together, and I completely remember this period of time where you were one person and you came back after a weekend and you were a whole different person. I was like, and I didn't hardly know you back then, but pretty fascinating. So were there any other external tools that you used to get into that space? If someone was like, okay, I know I got some baggage, but I don't want to go in victim mode and I don't want to be sad, but I know I got to release this. Like, one, how did you do it? And then two, well, let's start there, and then I have more questions.
Awesome. Yeah, I think what I did was I just sort of meditated on the experience, and I just tried to really relive it as much as I could, and feel, kind of just go through. I kind of conjured up people's faces. I remember the guy who told me that my mom had been in a plane crash. I remember his face, and that haunted me for years. And I imagined his face, and the whole, just tried to get to all of the absolute most deepest feelings, just all the things that just felt that and I replay those. And here's what happened. Here was the best part. And I didn't realize it until I was kind of going through it. the more I replayed it, the more it softened. And so that's why you do it, because you start off and it's really shocking and traumatic and sad, and you cry and cry and cry. And then you do it again and you cry still, but it's a little less. And you do it again and it's a little less. Now I can think of this man's face. I don't feel any of those feelings. I don't feel traumatized.
Right.
I don't feel, I can actually like.
So you completed the experience.
Yes.
By doing it. Okay.
Yeah, that's how it works. Because you really do need to clean all that energy out. And then when you come out on the other side of it, you see the gifts plural, or hopefully you do. I mean, that's the whole point, is to get through all that emotion and then see, why did this happen? What are the golden nuggets from it? Because there always are. These things don't happen for no reason. They happen so that you can learn and grow. And that's kind of your job, is to get there.
Yeah. And you were visibly and energetically so much lighter after that period. I remember it was just like a weekend, and there was like a month or two, and then it was like this whole other person. Okay. I have two more questions. One, how did your body feel, and how do you think the emotions were trapped physically in you? And two, I'm going to go with the sort of law of attraction view on emotions after that, because we just talked about feeling them and having them and focusing on them. So we're going to get to that. But first, your body.
Love it. So interestingly, and thanks to you. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it was not too long after that, where you introduced me to Kimberly Snyder and the whole vegan idea. Because I had
the glowing green smoothie. Although I don't recommend smoothies. It's another podcast, but I am drinking one. Okay. Keep going.
Yes, I'm excited for that podcast.
It's a weird occurrence. Okay. The health podcast coming soon. All right. Continue.
So so I didn't, so it's interesting, when you're used to feeling a certain way, the physical body does things to keep you in that space. Meaning, my diet wasn't great. So I had a heavier diet, and, kind of kept me in that sad state before this whole thing, before I went through the emotional stuff. And once you address the emotions, everything kind of works in tandem. It's amazing. It's almost like I was ready to switch up my diet. And I was ready to start eating the better foods to help me continue to feel better and better and better. And what's amazing about just using diet as an example, is the better you eat, the more you crave the better food. It's like you're just retraining your body to want different things. That's all it is. But it's a lot easier when you're not carrying around these heavy emotions.
Okay. So for you, it was like you noticed, because you weren't having any health problems specifically or anything like that.
No.
And you're not one usually to like manifest it physically. For you, it's maybe more some sort of external thing, but you did notice like this lightness of being, and then your diet kind of met you there.
Yeah.
Like you manifested new information, new choices.
Exactly.
And then you were like, oh, I never thought about that. And then, okay.
Yeah, that's the even better point, is the manifestation of the new choices. Like,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I've been recently delving into the emotion code, which is, basically like the energy of emotions that you haven't completed energetically place themselves in your body. And then it's almost like if you were to twist your sweater, it's like like, let's say this was energy around in my body. It does that, maybe it makes a little thing. So then the energy kind of goes, whoa, as it gets a little clogged, right? So, and none of us, they don't have to be traumatic events. It can just be offhanded comments, and you just couldn't have your feelings right then for whatever reason. I mean, how many times have we all stuffed feelings? Right?
Oh,
infinite times. Like, I can't even, which is why children are so great, because they do not shove their feelings down until we train them to.
Exactly.
A whole other podcast. Okay. So, so the idea, before we move on to the law of attraction, this idea that so it comes from the idea that, okay, back to everything is energy. You know, there's one thing, all of creation, and everything is contained within the allness of creation. And the allness of creation is all different forms of vibration, energy, you name it, stuff we can't even identify, obviously, because we're only human. So all that's contained in one giant existence. And humans and everything is a condensed version of energy, so it feels really solid. But as we know, with one of those super powerful microscopes, you can put your finger under a microscope and eventually it will get down to atoms. And as we know, there's almost nothing inside an atom. So we're mostly empty space. So we know this. So what is it then when we're feeling emotions? It's an energy wave that, if you think about it, much like your poop, consuming food, like everything in nature, it goes in a cycle or it goes in a wave. If you just look at nature, it's going to tell you that things go from one state to another state and they change. And so if you're having an experience, it's going to, let's just say it's a wave, it could wash through you. But if you're like, can't, or it washes this way or whatever, I don't know which direction. But we have the meridians, all that stuff. So then the idea is that when you're having this emotion, it wants to move and you're like, stop. And it stops wherever it's going to stop. And there's people that write books about where and why it stops. And that's fine, but that's more detail than we need. The idea is that it just stops. And it's in the airport waiting to go somewhere, just sitting there like, okay, I'll sit here. It's like 20 freaking years. Okay. Something like that. So then it moves. So then when we have either energy psychology, energy medicine, Chinese medicine, emotional weekends, emotional months, where we're purposefully saying, I want to release this there's infinite ways, emotion code, you name it, all that stuff, that's energy medicine. Then it allows that energy to move itself on out. And the idea is that the subconscious is kind of the computer that's storing, and the subconscious is really your higher mind, like your the bigger you. So it's not a brain thing, because it obviously wouldn't fit in your brain. It's this bigger it's this bigger higher self that's like, I've got all your data. You let me know when you want to process it. So it's like your higher self has like a just big database, and then little you is like, I can only handle so much stuff, so don't give me all the things. And then when you're ready, it goes out. So that's kind of how I see how the storage in the body stuff. And the net is find a way to get it to move through. And sometimes it's deeply feeling it. Sometimes it's as easy as, Donna Eden's energy medicine, or what, it can be Psych K. There's so many different things. It can be super easy, or it's going to be a process. And that is, oh, say more.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was going to say, and allow, like if just be open to having it and releasing it, like, just like, don't, if you,
right.
You know what
Stop
I mean?
Staying in the pattern. So you're saying, like, because I think what you learned from that was you could feel again, where
yes,
a lot of people are not in. I mean, I can't say I'm actually better at not feeling now than I used to be, but I'm an adult now. I don't need to feel. I'm handling things, so it's almost like, what do you mean feel again? So it's like you have to bring allowing feeling back in your life, because it can slow you down, and nobody likes to be slowed down.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, that there's so many thoughts. Okay. One, I want to address because the moving through, like what you just said, made me think of how illness and disease manifest.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of the chronic stuff. And
yeah,
then
I didn't mention it, but that was the point.
Yeah. No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And the other thing is understanding what's yours and what's not. Which those could be like 2 whole podcasts in themselves, but I'll just touch lightly on each, because they're both super important. So what you just said is brilliant, because when you don't release, when you don't find a way, whether, like you said, whether it's a quick release or like it takes, some time, if you continue to stuff the emotions, it's sort of like, I think of it as food, moldy food.
Mhm.
So, that
moldy food.
moldy
Oh,
food. So yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't clean out your refrigerator frequently enough, the stuff's gonna just sit there and grow mold, and it's gonna become toxic. And so if your body's the refrigerator and the food are the emotions, then you've got to clean that out. You've got to get that out, because when it doesn't and it stays, particularly when it's a negative emotion, and then we can also talk about why negative. But when you don't, it's energy. It's got to go somewhere. It's got to grow. It's going to grow no matter what, whether it stays in you or not. It's going to change. And if it stays in you,
it's nature is not static.
Nature is not static.
It's not plastic.
Yes.
Even
plastic changes, right? But it takes a long time. But exactly. Everything changes. Everything. So it will decay. And that is what causes disease and illness. The chronic stuff. So there's that. The other piece is understanding what's yours and what's not. Now, I think you are a very sensitive being. I'm a very sensitive being. And I think what happens, and everybody is, let's just put it that way. Everybody is. It's just whether or not you're aware and are really tuned in and tapped in, turned on. But being a sensitive human, sometimes we don't know when we're picking up the energetic, the emotional, our emotional environment, or if it's just kind of coming from inside of us. And I will say that more often than not, very likely, if you're highly sensitive, you're picking something up from the outside. So we learn to defend ourselves, and we learn to shut down and stop feeling. And so because it can become very overwhelming. And then when we don't know what's ours and what's not, we'll adopt things as our own. We just assume that, oh, this is my feeling. This is how I'm feeling. Well, you might very likely be picking up on what's going on around you, and it might not be yours. And the whole point of being able to feel your environment is to gain wisdom. And so there's, we can go into all of the nuances of picking up the emotional environment versus what's yours in a different podcast, but just understand there is a difference. So not you.
Wow, Lisa, that's huge, because I think people identify, I know I've done this in the past, where you identify the stress of a group and it's like, wait, I'm not stressed, but I believe it's almost like the fish doesn't realize it's in the water kind of thing. So is that mostly, okay. That's a exactly. huge podcast right there. You also talked about the negative. Yes.
So one point I want to make is understanding that, okay, so I kind of look at, I sort of like to use physical in this world, 3D metaphors for, things that we can't see, like the non-physical. So in this case, when I think of emotional pain, I like to equate it to physical pain, because it's really not anything different. We understand what physical pain is. It's pretty easy to understand. Imagine, so the reason that we experience emotional pain is because it's far enough away from who we are naturally. And that's the only reason it is. So imagine if your limbs were being pulled away from your body. Like the more they get pulled away, the more painful it is. Right. And so that's very similar to what is happening emotionally. It's you're being pulled away from your natural state of being. And so it feels uncomfortable. It's anything that feels uncomfortable is just a sign that you're kind of pulling yourself away from who you naturally are, which is why it's so important to try to find, in as many moments as possible, however way you can get there, try to find a good feeling. And again, use the emotions as the tool to just release when you need to, knowing that you're going to get back to that peaceful, calm state as often as you can. So it's complex, but it's fun. Being human can be super fun
it's super fun.
It's
oh
super
my God.
fun.
I love it. Where's my smoothie? Oh, here it is. You'll
I
know,
love it.
yes, dear Flow Getter fans, there's always a smoothie joke in each of our things. Um, so okay. So you said something about I kind of want to launch into I'm super Abraham lover,
Yes.
right? Okay, so I'm going to say some things and then you're going to have some thoughts. So one thing I learned from Abraham was when you're having a feeling that is quote negative, it is sorry, my dog is moving my light. Oh beast, go.
Chico.
Go beast. Um
Like the Flow Getter
the
mascot.
you hear this like an
I can
earthquake?
see it. It's bouncing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for the interruption, folks. Um, so when you're having an emotion, you it's telling you how aligned with source you are. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry, I apologize. Um, I have to let him out. One
Yes,
moment,
do it.
please. So when you're having a negative emotion, or emotion, let's just say that it doesn't feel good. Okay. You don't want to say anything. Just you start to notice you are not feeling good. It is an indication that your attention, which is often your thoughts, but I will just say your attention for the moment, because we will, is that you are pointed in the opposite of the source energy's perspective um, on the situation, which is understandable being a human, right? It's sort of the game we play of like, these are the bad things, these are the good things, you know, death is bad, hummingbirds are good, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm really into that idea. I really like it. And it's, you know, hard to be okay with things that feel bad too, and not feel bad about things that feel bad, right? So how do we um you know, a lot of people will say in the law of attraction, oh, you should never focus on the negative and all this stuff we said about feeling it. And my answer to that is, how's that working for you? You know, because I talked to someone recently and my feeling is, okay, if you're a person who um, doesn't normally focus on negative things and then just suddenly gets super like, yeah, you want to take your focus off that and just let it go. But if you're repeating a pattern of anger and frustration, you may actually want to lean in and start digging out what's going on there. So my answer is not this do it this way or that way. It's what we're hoping to do here on this Flow Getter podcast today is kind of draw one of those maps, you know, the lay of the land. Like, okay, you've got your law of attraction angle, you've got your trauma angle, you've got your deep feelings, you've got your body aspect, all the stuff. So you know when you find yourself in a different situation that you kind of go, okay, this is one of the, you are in a choice mode instead of, okay, what did the book say? The New Age book that I read, what did it say? Instead of, okay, if this is a repeating pattern, does it feel right to like maybe take a deeper look? Yes, that feels right. Okay, go for that. You're not doing new ageness wrong if you go do that. And likewise, if you are one of those people that can just focus on the positive, don't let other people make you wrong. You know, like you should be mad because this, you know, like, hey, thanks, bye, you know, that kind of thing. So
I
so
love
yeah,
that.
tell me what's sort of your like like it sounds like you have a pretty good, I think both of us do have a pretty good sense of when to lean into the get your focus to be on something positive and be go into gratitude, and when to go deep and be like, okay, woman,
That's
you've got to deal with this.
I love that you just said that. That is so key because what you're saying is we're trying to present a buffet of options here on and understanding how and when and where and why. Because that's exactly what it is. That's what life's about, is that's where the wisdom is where you yeah, we're human and we understand. I mean, as far as I can tell, at least the life experience I've had, the times that I've grown the most are coming out of the most painful experiences. It's just how it's worked for me. And that's how I've
Yeah.
seen it work for a lot of people, most people.
It's the hero's journey, right?
It's the hero's journey.
It's the
Yeah.
hero's journey. Yeah.
Thank you. That said, when you start to really understand how all of it works, you don't necessarily have to go to those deep, dark places anymore. I kind of look at life as like, okay, you start out with a clean slate, and then you like really get into the human experience, and you trip and fall and do all these things, and you have all these experiences in order to gain the wisdom, so that later in life you have your buffet of options to choose from. And you can, like you said, go to the law of attraction sort of idea, which to me, we know how much we love the law of attraction, and it's so useful and fundamental and for me necessary to know and understand how that works, because that really is just telling us how we create. That's what that's for. It's telling us how we create, how we manifest. And then there's the piece where, okay, yeah, if you're in a space to kind of like what you're saying about that middle road, where you're not like on either extreme, where you can pick up and shift your focus and shift your focus and shift your focus, that's great. But like you're saying, with the deep trauma, there might be another way, that might be more useful to get you out of that. And then, so yeah, it's, I love it. It's perfect.
It's so perfect. And you said something super important there with it's how we manifest. So this isn't like basically how do emotions play in creating what you want. And I will say a little caveat here too. We don't want the ego to take control and be like there is a certain amount, it's the flow getter show here. It's like, it is about receiving and relaxing, because the universe is way more intelligent than you are. So it's not like I have to do this and then I'll get that. And you're never going to control anything. So that's something to keep in mind. But the idea, one thing, is people can visualize whatever, but the secret sauce, and, law of attraction veterans already know this, but I said this today to a person who was telling me about this goal that they wanted to achieve. And I said, have you sat and felt what it would feel like to have the clarity and have the peacefulness of everything, being what you're saying you wanted? And she was like, oh, no. And this is a seasoned person in this stuff. So we forget that the whole thing is to, and this is kind of back to the frequency and vibration, if we have other podcasts on that. But the idea is that your emotion music's going to be a great metaphor here. Every emotion, has a sound, and each of them are as unique as the song. Every second, they're all unique. So the signature's consistently unique, everything, all the time. And what we've talked about before is that when there's a specific sound on a tuning fork, if there's other things that can vibrate in the room, they will all start vibrating at that same wavelength. So how we quote create is that we choose the feeling of, I love the feeling of satisfaction. I love the feeling of clarity. I love the feeling of relief. I love the feeling of, it's totally going to work out. Like nothing, you don't need to go to bliss and blinding joy. You just kind of get to the this thing I'm wanting. You go from wanting mode to it's kind of worked out mode. Like this is not a huge, vibrational jump, right? Most people can kind of go, okay, I can stop wanting and just kind of go, oh, I love the feeling of I totally know what I want, or that totally worked out. Like it's not this huge thing, right? So the idea is that you choose the emotion that you want to feel at the end of, someone gave you the answer, or you had the clarity, or whatever. It was the thing happened. I want the money because then I'll have relief. Well, just feel the freaking relief. Okay. And when you do that, the music, the broadcast comes off you, and the laws of, I'll say, general physics is that things that are vibrating, which is a human body in the world, has to match that frequency. So the emotional frequency from the world can affect you, or you can affect the world.
Brilliant. That's perfect. Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yay.
And scene.
And dismount. Let's both dismount like we just got off one of those things. We're like, we did it. Yeah, and then you do don't they do that?
All right.
All right, that was a great emotions. What are emotions for? Why do we care?
I know.
Why they aren't grody. Yeah.
And what's great is that we'll likely have follow-up. We'll kind of dig a little deeper into some of these things.
Exactly.
And but yeah, that's sort of an overview of like.
And we want to hear new perspectives and things we probably forgot to talk about, so we can podcast about that more. So of course, put your comments in the places to put comments, and of course, like, subscribe, all the things. We'd appreciate that. So Erica, this has been super fun. And listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always fun to have people who share the same wavelength of thoughts and feelings. It's super great. So until next time, the Flow Getter crew says bye-bye.
Peace out.